think we can beat Dutch Ruppersberger everywhere I go. And believe me, I am going to more community meetings than I know exist. I can't believe how many community meetings there are in Baltimore County and Howard County. And there's Anne Arundel and I mean, I already go to the stuff in Hartford. But the common thread between all of them is we've seen more of you in the last 6 months than we've seen of Dutch in the last 10 years. And something happened to Dutch.
He didn't get that after surgery.
What was that? Something about Dutch and surgery, he didn't get well.
Bariatric surgery. That's terrible.
Dutch is a nice guy. Wouldn't mind sitting down and having a beer with Dutch. Dutch is a nice guy. He just votes really bad.
Yeah.
You know, he just really, really bad. You know, he promised people he was going to vote against Obamacare, and he voted for it. You know, the most important thing facing us right now is the economy, is jobs. And you know, we're up over $16 trillion in debt. When our young people get out of college, if they're fortunate enough to be able to go to college in the first place, look at the bills they're facing from their student loans. And look at the unemployment rate between the ages of 18 and 24. It's 17%. We've had 44 straight months of unemployment rates above 8%. I don't know about you, but I have a family. And besides teaching tennis, I used to be a teacher. I was a journalism major in college. I did a lot of different things. And I have 3 grown daughters, and my #1 job is being a grandmother. We have 8 wonderful grandchildren, and we just recently had a little girl. Charlotte's 4 months old, and when Charlotte was born into this world, she was born with a debt of $51,000. Think about that. That's unbelievable. And, you know, we worry about Obamacare and what's going to happen. Gertrude, who works for me, she's in her I can't say that. She's not supposed to, don't want people. Gertrude, who's up in years, just had her hip replaced, and she's going to have her other hip replaced before Christmas because she's worried. She's worried about waiting and what happens when if Obama gets back in. That's scary stuff. 2 of my son-in-laws have lost their job. One of my girls has lost her job. One of them had to move in with us because they couldn't afford their house payments. Unfortunately, they're moving back into their home. I hate that. Really going to have the empty nest syndrome. But, you know, thinking about the future and what our young people and our families, and those of you who have parents who are still alive, how in the world are they going to cope with Obamacare and with Medicare? And what is going on? You know, this man has done more damage in the last 4 years. I didn't think this was possible. But it is. And it's going to take us a long time to get out of this. And unless we elect Mitt Romney, he's going to need to be there at least 8 years, and we're going to have to elect somebody conservative after him to be able to get us out of there. You know, in Dutch, the mentality of this man went to Washington and he drank the Kool-Aid. Or whatever it was they feed him down there. Not only did he say he was going to vote for Obamacare, and he didn't, but you know, his idea of being a fiscal conservative is to vote for cash for clunkers. I mean, come on. Do something. He's not done anything. We never seen. He's never anywhere. People people are fed up. And I may not have the money that he has. But what I have is grassroots support, like the folks in this room. And I don't know if it was Dutch who's done a poll. I mean, I know he did a poll earlier because he suddenly started having these programs where he had called Dutch on Demand. I think they knew from polling that the Dutch was never anywhere. So they created this Dutch on Demand program. And all it was 7 of his people from Washington going from library to library, telling people to bring their constituent concerns, and they'd help them. Evidently, Dutch was unaware that he was supposed to be there or that he was on demand because he didn't show up to a single one of them. And hardly anybody showed up for any of them. Several of them, they had more staff in D.C. there than they did constituents. This guy doesn't get it. We were in a parade in Dundalk for the 4th of July. Went out the night before, door to door, and walked part of the parade route. And we gave out close to 30 signs and handheld placards, like around, we've got them here. And when we got in the parade the next day, it was hilarious. It was so much fun. Dutch, one person told me after the parade, Dutch looked at my yard sign in that man's yard and said, "What are you doing with our yard sign in your yard?" And the guy's like, "Dutch, sorry." And that's happening everywhere. We're going to do this. And evidently he must have done another poll, because now he suddenly has people putting signs up frantically. Most of them are in illegal places. A lot of them he put up in places that he did not have permission, like friends of mine in their property. Big, big 4x4s, whatever they are, to 7-Eleven that I know. And they called Dutch's campaign, "Oh, it must be a mistake."
Must be a mistake.
And so we gave him 24 hours to come pick it up. Finally, today they came to pick it up. And the guy tried to intimidate the woman who owned the store. And said, "I talked to somebody yesterday in your store. What do they look like? I don't have anybody here that looks like that." What'd they say? They said, "I could put a sign up. I've already talked to everybody in my store. Nobody talked to you." And I was there right afterwards. And I went in the store and said, how'd this happen? "We don't know. He just showed up and started doing it." And then he had the guts to put a sign across the road at another friend of mine. It just goes on. He doesn't have the grassroots support at all. And there's been some doubt. I don't know if any of you read The Dagger, but somehow Dutch knew that they killed Osama bin Laden. And he announced it before the president did.
Yeah, I read that.
You read that?
Yes, I did.
Why aren't people screaming and hollering about this? This is a breach of security. He's supposed to be on the Intelligence Committee.
That was his first mistake.
I'm not going to, personally, I don't think he belongs on the Intelligence Committee.
Oh, that's like the Wizard of Oz. If you get a badge for courage, or you get a diploma, you're intelligent. If you're on the intelligence, that's how he got his intelligence.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you cleared that up. He was kicked off, or he was removed from the Armed Services Committee. That committee is extremely important to Congressional District 2. We've got Fort Meade. We've got Aberdeen Proving Ground. Granted, he didn't do much for Fort Meade or Aberdeen Proving Ground, but at least he sat there on this committee, and they removed him. What does that say? That's a slap in the face. Unfortunately, it wasn't a hard enough slap in the face. But they're worried.
Yes.
He's not real anxious to debate. I'm very anxious to debate. I have a lot of questions for him. Come on in, Dutch.
Come on.
Oh.
Someone who said it.
But this is such a lovely party, and you all are so wonderful to come out and be here. I need volunteers. He's raised a lot more money, obviously, than any Republican can raise. Although, I have to tell you, in the last quarter, I outraised him 2 times from the state of Maryland. 88%, 85% of his campaign contributions came from out of state, from PACs, from special interest groups. About 90% of mine came from ordinary people who live here in the state of Maryland, voters. I did have 8 or 9 checks from out of the state of Maryland. Some of them were my relatives. 9 checks? 9 checks. Who's counting? So I really, really need your help. We need people going door to door. We need people manning the polls. We have a new phone system that we're going to crank up and start making calls every night to ID voters. It's very easy to work. We need your help in a major way, because we know we're not going to defeat him with television commercials, because we don't have enough money to run the kind of television commercials that he does. We're going to defeat him on the ground. I don't think he has any idea that we are going as many places as we go. I live in a constant state of tired, and that's okay, because I know it ends. And part of the reason why I get elected over and over again in a Democrat area is because I work my butt off for the people I serve. And my staff does. And I want to do this for the whole congressional district. I don't want to be a congressperson. I want to be a representative. Congress should not be a spectator sport. And Dutch has made it a spectator sport. So, with that, I'll be glad to take any questions, as long as they're not hard. Just kidding.
Can you tell them that that phone call that embarrassed me was one of her supporters in Harford County calling you fast to tell you don't put up an 8x4 sign by Abingdon Elementary, and you better get one out there.
Oh, well.
Nancy,
Yeah.
do you have any idea who will fill your shoes in Annapolis?
That will be up to the central committees in Harford and Cecil County.
And they're on our side.
Yeah, they're on our side.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah, let's worry about that November 10th.
Yeah, who did Dutch vote for speaker?
Nancy Pelosi.
Oh, wow.
No.
How did he get his chairmanship on the the Intelligence Committee?
Nancy Pelosi.
Nancy Pelosi. Who does he bow down to and kiss her ring every morning? Nancy Pelosi.
If you look at the votes, it's true.
Yeah, it's true. And what about the Democrats in this last week with their party?
No.
And the party platform where they were taking God out.
Oh my gosh.
And they were
How
saying
embarrassing.
that Jerusalem, I mean, they took out the Jerusalem. It's the capital
That was
of
even more
Israel.
embarrassing how they did it, right?
Did anybody watch the 3 votes after
Oh
that?
yes. Oh, it was embarrassing.
Terrible.
It was horrible.
Did anybody notice that they did it 3 times?
And they're still wrong.
And they lost all 3 times.
Yeah. And then you have Wendy Rosen this one.
And then, oh, Wendy Rosen. Let me tell you about Wendy Rosen. It's funny, Dutch's endorsement of Wendy Rosen has disappeared from his website.
Shucks.
How'd we find out?
Because we looked, we knew he had endorsed her, we knew
No, how
it
did
was
he
on
find
his
out?
website.
She probably voted for him twice.
That's the poster child for a vote early and often.
Yeah, often.
Well, they trained him in Chicago.
Everywhere.
So we have got to turn out. We have got to get everybody out there voting. We need your help. And I thank you all for helping out by being here tonight. It means the world to me. So thank you all.